What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Manny Reads Comics, and thank you for joining me for today's review of Amazing Spider-Man number 76. Before I get started on this review, I do want to let you know that I do have a TikTok account, Manny Reads Comics as well, where I do just quick reviews, 2-3 minutes at most. That's the max, right? So if you don't have time to watch this whole full review, please go check that out. And let me know what you think in the comments and here, in the comments in TikTok. Anything helps, any suggestions help. Thank you so much. But anyways, let's go ahead and start this review. We are no longer with Nick Spencer's run. I didn't do a review for number 75. I think I was just still shaking off Spencer's run. Honestly, I didn't like it. I didn't like the ending. It did not satisfy any of the needs that I wanted from it. It kept teasing other things, and it didn't fulfill. So there's that. But moving on, we're going past Nick Spencer's run, and we're going into this new storyline beyond. This is chapter 2. Ben Reilly is back, and right off the bat, I'm just gonna say that this issue 76 was a 4 out of 5, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I liked it. It just means that it was a good issue. But they just need to leave my boy alone. They need to stop. He just got done fighting a whole bunch of people with kindred storyline, and now they're gonna put him in the hospital bed and replace him with his clone Ben. Right. Um, that being said, though, let's just get into the book and find out why I gave it a 4 out of 5. Um, yeah, no. So Ben Reilly, he in the last issue, just a quick recap of last issue. Ben Reilly shows up. Peter finds him, follows him. They start talking. There's a fight with the UFOs, which I've never heard of before, but apparently they each, it's kind of like the Metal Men or whatever from DC. They each have like a certain element that they use. Some is a toxin. One was like X-ray. I'm not too sure about them, but they fight them together, Ben and Peter, and one of them goes off and sets off some kind of like poison in the air. Ben's new suit is able to filter that poison out. He is able to take these huge punches that Peter normally couldn't take easily. But because Peter doesn't have this highly sophisticated suit, he falls victim to these toxins, and he ends up in the hospital. Ben takes him to the hospital, um, and that's basically how we finished this last issue. But moving into number 76, Ben calls May. We see that he calls Aunt May, and I really like the fact that Aunt May immediately just knows that this is not Peter, because he says, "Hey, I'm Peter. I'm in the hospital, and come quick. It's bad." But she's like, that wasn't Peter, right? And then 2, he did call MJ. MJ shows up at the hospital, she doesn't see him. He runs away before she can talk to him, but she sees Peter. They see that he's in critical condition. He's not waking up. He's unconscious. And then we focus on Peter, and Peter, he's talking to himself inside his spider sense, is letting him know that something is wrong. Something inside of him is trying to kill him, and in order to fix it, well, he needs to rest. Back at the Beyond Tower, though, Ben makes it back to Janine. Janine is there with Marcus. They're both waiting for Ben because he didn't show up. He took his suit off, didn't tell anybody where he was. Marcus was more worried about the suit than he was Ben. He's basically saying Ben is easily replaceable, which I I don't agree with, because Ben has spider powers. You can't really replace that. I mean, you could, but you can't. Not if you're gonna be Spider-Man, right? But anyways, Ben makes jokes. He's acting nonchalant. He's like, "Yeah, I had to deal with Peter," but he doesn't say Peter Parker. Apparently, they don't know, and he's not enough of a identical clone that these people can figure it out. I don't know. That's a little, that's a little negative on my end that I don't like. That this guy shows his face all the time, and these top scientists can't figure out that Peter Parker, whose face was everywhere when he had Peter Industries or whatever, or Parker Industries. So I don't know. I just feel like Peter Parker's face should be known, and these guys don't know who Spider-Man is. And the fact that's now I'm going on a rant. The fact that Spider-Man was like Peter Parker's, not bodyguard, I would say, but he was kind of employed by Peter Parker in the Parker Industries. I don't know. I just feel like someone should have made that connection, and it's just a little unbelievable that hasn't happened yet. But anyways, Marcus is letting him know that he needs to rest. Letting Ben know that he needs to rest. He needs to go out and capture the UFOs. Um, and most of all, he can't just take off his suit and just go offline without telling anybody. He's basically, you know, he's being a supervisor and telling him what he can do and what he can't do. Um, Once he leaves, Ben goes to Janine and he's like, hey, Parker's bad. I don't know how I feel about this. He's having doubts about taking the Spider-Man name, and rightfully so, honestly. Back at the hospital, Aunt May gets there. She sees Peters is on the hospital bed. She sees MJ, and she wants to know what's going on. And there aren't really any answers. And this is one thing that I really love about MA. And she's like, "Well, I'm gonna get some answers." And well, MJ says, the doctor doesn't seem like he wants to talk very much. And she said, "Oh, he's gonna talk." And he goes, so she's kind of a badass. I like that. Then we go back to Ben and Marcus. Ben is being prepped for his mission of taking down the UFOs. So he's got like some people giving him some lead canisters for the X-ray guy, some other stuff. Basically, this is showing how different Ben is as Spider-Man now than Parker. Peter, he goes out there, he finds the situations, by listening to like a radio, police radio, or he just happens to be in the right place in the right time. But Ben, he's got a whole team behind him. He's got a lab of very smart people, creating little toys for him or anything that he needs for whatever fight that he's going to go into. It's a completely different Spider-Man, right? Um, but he, right before he goes off to go face like the UFOs, he starts to feel bad. He's just like, this is not okay. And so he goes back to the hospital. He says, give me an hour. I'll go back to the UFOs, but give me an hour. So he goes to Peter Parker, and basically he just wants to get his blessing. In issue 75, he told Peter, he's like, hey, I'm not asking your permission. I'm just telling you this is what's going to happen. I'm going to take over the mantle of Spider-Man legally. And that's it. I'm not asking your permission, just letting you know. But now with Peter in the hospital, he's basically feeling like he needs to tell Peter. He needs his blessing, even though Peter doesn't really control him. He can't tell him what to do, right? But and that's what Peter says basically at the very end. To wrap this up, basically he says, I don't like the idea of you being around. It reminds me too much of other things. It's negative, but I can't tell you what to do. And he knows better than anybody else how Ben is feeling with his responsibility. And he says, I know you'll do great. Go ahead and do it. Gives him his blessing. Be amazing. That was one of the best panels that I saw. It was great. And it's very heartwarming. And it gives Ben like the motivation to go on and to actually do this and become the Spider-Man. But once he leaves and once he's out of earshot, Peter says to MJ, he's like, hey, I can't feel my body. And that, me as the reader at that point, I was like, oh no, like I thought he was actually getting better or whatever. He was going to be in the hospital for a little bit and that's it. But out of nowhere, he's just, I can't feel my body. And then he starts to crash. And then the doctors come rushing in, and we start seeing what he's thinking about with the spider sense, and is that basically saying, I need to fix this. There's something wrong inside me. He goes into a coma, and it's not looking great for him. He's not gonna die. I know that for a fact. He's not gonna die, but it's not looking great for him. He slips into the coma, and then we get Ben going after the UFOs. He's doing a great job. He's taking them down one by one, and one guy's like, "What, Spider-Man?" And he channels his best Kite Man. Instead of saying hell yeah, he's like, hell yes, Spider-Man. Like, so he's happy. He's good. He thinks that he's basically on top of the world, and that's how it ends, which is great for Ben, but it's not too great for Peter. Right. So again, this is a 4 out of 5 for me. 4 out of 5 because basically there were a lot of positives in this. Peter's doing his best to be the better person, to do what he knows is right, and he allows Ben to move forward with his blessing. And I really love that. That's very true to his character. The whole aspect of danger happening, as much as I don't like it, as much as I don't want Peter to be suffering like this. Um, it's happening, and it's making the story actually feel like it has some weight. With Nick Spencer's run, nothing ever really felt like something was going to happen. He made things look like they were going to happen. He teased a lot of things, but nothing happened. Here, I feel like things are definitely going to happen. So there's that positive there. Again, the negative being the fact that I just don't want Peter to suffer anymore. He's had enough with the last run. So that's not really truly a negative. And just to add to another positive is Gleason's art. I love the way he draws Peter Parker or not Peter Parker, Spider-Man with the mask, with the eyes, everything. Gleason's doing a great job on art with the interiors, and not going to talk about the A covers because let's just say I don't like them. I don't personally appreciate the art, but it's not terrible, even though it's terrible. Either way, 4 out of 5, great things. It's not completely amazing where it's like it needs to be a 5 out of 5, but it's great read, moving the story forward, and I truly appreciate that. So, yeah, there's that. That's Amazing Spider-Man 76. I'm looking forward to 77, and I'm not gonna have to wait long because each issue, I think there's 3 issues of Spider-Man coming out a month. So I think I'll see you next week for the next issue. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have a good one.